Hello. So the World Happiness Report of 2022 or 2023 doesn't really matter which way you take, what year you take. It's basically always the same, generally speaking, with some small fluctuations. Is a scam. Now I don't say that lightly. I mean that quite literally. Yes, they have documented interesting facts. It gives a general view of the world in terms of wealth. So yeah, obviously these countries are gonna be doing better. These countries are gonna be doing better, and then these countries are gonna be doing worse, and then these are the worst, and these countries are doing quite worse. And 3.8 it must be horrible. And then in Asia you can see it that well, but it's basically the same as a 5. It's basically all like a 5. Let's see, or even lower, like a 4 maybe even at some places. Because I was looking at Asia and which country maybe to teach in and live in for a while. And, I thought, I really can't go. Oh, Thailand is quite low. I can't really go to Cambodia with only maybe like a 5 or 6 or Laos. Well, Laos also has. And, I was looking at these countries and I was really basing that off that. So I was going to look like, ooh, India is horrible. These people must be so unhappy with it. 3.8. They must all be depressed with the World Happiness Report that you hear about every year. Well, it turns out that I actually looked at what are they actually measuring, and it's explained by 6 factors, and it's basically this one's a little bit odd, but this perception of corruption. Oh, okay, perception of corruption. Okay, generosity. Okay, freedom to make life choices. Okay. Interesting. Health, life expectancy. Okay, but what about happiness? Oh, social support, and then GDP per capita. So they just add it up all together and they say, well, these countries are by far the most happy, and these countries, they're doing just significantly worse. And the Nordic countries and the Netherlands and these countries are just phenomenal. They don't have more depression or anything. They're by far the happiest people. And I live in the Netherlands. Yeah, people are generally pretty happy, but there's a significant amount of people that are not so happy. When I was in Thailand, I actually thought that people were happier in Thailand when I looked at the people and how they were. So that's interesting, right? So, but they don't actually measure happiness at all. I forgot what this was. This is like, I don't know, you have to look that up. But they don't measure. This is also not about happiness. This is like the worst country and then plus some of this. It's just more of this basically. So they just measure countries' happiness by social support and GDP and life expectancy and freedom to make life decisions, generosity and perception of corruption. That's it. That's not a perception of what happiness, of how happy people are. It's just not. It's GDP. So then you look at other studies and they just found completely different things. Like this one seems to be the biggest one. They do one every year. And then actually China, the year before this, it was at 86%. It's now at 91%. Saudi Arabia, which got a 6.5 on this little map, well, it's actually doing second best. Netherlands, 85% of people describe themselves as what you say are very happy, rather not very happy at all. Well, it's basically like the average, basically happiness. Maybe I'll read into it a little bit more, but it seems to be quite clear. Well, then India, 84%. Oh, India was among the worst countries in the world when it comes to happiness. So it just shows an incredible ignorance and arrogance of this World Happiness Report, that supposedly if you just have a little bit more GDP or things like that, then you're happy, which is insane. So India is actually one of the happiest countries in the world. Brazil, UAE, Mexico, Colombia, Australia, Chile, Portugal, Indonesia, South Africa. So actually this is not representative of the whole world because these are all the countries they've measured. But it's like, then suddenly Belgium is at 68, and Japan is at 60, and so it's basically, this country is just a flip. It's a flipped. Well, it's not necessarily flip, but it's just not accurate. And so yeah, this is the change in happiness by country. China is just rising significantly. It's pretty amazing to see. Netherlands don't have data on it, but India is very high still. This is quite low for a while, but they went back up to 80% again, or yeah. So it's fascinating, and then France is not that high anymore. It's still very high. Well, so it doesn't say all that much at all. And then to me, I mean, South Korea, what's it here at like 57%, and here it's like also 6. But especially these countries who are so wealthy and where these studies are from, most definitely, I'm willing to bet. Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily much higher at all. France, let's see, Germany, Poland, South Korea. So the studies, as you can see, there is a decent amount of flux anyways. They went from 34% to 74%. Which can have all sorts of factors. That's probably generally indicative, but there can be factors. So it just shows that the World Happiness Report to me, it's a literal scam, because they're literally saying that, this is also interesting data, but they're literally saying that these are the happiest countries and these are the least happy countries. And it's literally not about happiness whatsoever. It's just not. Very arrogant, very Western biased. Very terrible in my view. I can quickly look at this. My children, if a parent, satisfying with life, global average, overall how satisfied are you? Oh, okay, well, thank you for listening.